Hey everyone, this is Dr. Martin. Welcome back from Memorial Day weekend. Hope everyone had a safe social distancing weekend. So a reminder for next week, we're actually going to be, our topic next week is going to be on daycare. So I'm getting a lot of questions about daycare safety, whether or not you should go back to daycare. And as things start to loosen up, I do want to give you some background on that and things to think about and what to look for in your daycare centers. But today we have a very special guest, someone that we make referrals to for all those really challenging sleep cases where people are having difficulty having their child sleep through the night, or just even getting to sleep is a challenge. I know as a pediatrician, for me, probably sleep and potty training are my two difficult situations that we run into a lot, but can be really, really challenging. And so I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Her name is Kendra Hackenberg. She's the founder of the Sleepytime Consultant. Her professional background's in actually education, which not so surprising. She received her bachelor's degree in elementary education from Penn State University, where she also was a Division I swimmer. She went on for a master's degree in reading specialization from Johns Hopkins University. She is also a mother of two young kids, 2 and 5, who apparently I'm hoping sleep through the night for her. So let me introduce you to Kendra. Oh, 1 second. There you are.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. I think it's great that you're getting on here every week and sharing information with your families during this unsettling time. So I'm sure it brings a lot of comfort to families to see familiar face and offering information that they can trust. So I'm excited to be here today, and I really appreciate it.
Yes, and this will be forever out there on the web. So,
all right. Well, that doesn't make me any less nervous.
Sorry. No, I really appreciate you being here, and especially with 2 kids that you're taking care of at home. So, I haven't warned anyone, but I know for both of us, we both have kids, and I have a cat. I think you said you had a dog. So
yeah, we may have some interruptions.
We may have some interruptions.
Yes. I think I lost you.
So I guess I'll jump right in and kind of go over some scenarios we had talked about a little bit in advance. That was helpful. So one of the biggest things I get in the office certainly is that 4 to 6 month old range, and the questions about, why are they still waking up multiple times during the night? When can you expect an infant to sleep through the night? And so how do you address that, and what do you say to families?
Yes, that's a very, very common question that I get as well. And I work with many 4 to 6 month olds. So the main thing you want to think about is, between 0 to 6 months, typically, especially in the beginning in the newborn stage of 0 to 3 months, babies are, still needing to eat frequently at night. They have small tummies, they need to be eating. And then when you get to the 4 to 6 month mark, they can go a little bit longer stretches without eating. And usually pediatricians, and you can speak to this too, but around the 6 month mark is when pediatricians give the green light, if the growth looks good, if everything's developing properly, to drop night feeds. Before that, pediatricians can look at that, and I always refer my clients back to their pediatrician if they're interested in weaning night feeds or dropping them. But usually at 6 months is when pediatricians give the green light, and it could happen a little bit before. It could happen naturally for some babies before. But the biggest reason, or I'm going to give you 2 reasons to kind of think about why my baby could still be waking up frequently at night, and this is more frequently besides the night feeds. So you want to think about what is happening at bedtime. How is your baby falling asleep at bedtime? If we think about sleep as a journey, going from point A, awake, to point B, asleep, how are we getting there? As adults, we go through this journey every night, and we do the same thing every night. Some of us like to sleep with socks on. Some of us sleep with the window open or sleep on a certain side of the bed. We use our certain little rituals to get to sleep. When babies are going from point A, awake, to point B, asleep, that's where the problem can arise, is they're using external strategies to fall asleep and they're not internalizing those self-soothing skills, which can create a problem. So babies could be using what's known as sleep props, which is anything external to help them fall asleep. So some examples of sleep props could be nursing your baby to sleep, falling asleep on the bottle, rocking your baby, a pacifier. If it's an older child, it could be, having the parent's presence there until they fall asleep. But if they're using these external strategies to fall asleep, then when they cycle in and out of their different stages of sleep throughout the night, and they're in a lighter stage of sleep, they're more likely to wake up and need that help to get them back to sleep. So if you are providing the help for them around the 4 to 6 month mark, before that, newborns don't have those self-soothing strategies. So before that, they need more support getting to sleep. But if they're practicing, falling asleep independently at bedtime, this is really going to help those middle of the night wake-ups that are non-feed wake-ups, where they don't need to eat and they're able to get themselves back to sleep. Because if they can figure it out at bedtime, putting them down awake and figuring out that going to sleep, then they're going to be able to do this when they have those naturally occurring wake-ups throughout the night.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, I to hit on some of the things that you said. I would agree that for most infants by 6 months, we're usually assuring parents that a child doesn't need to feed at night and has the capacity in terms of how they sleep cycle and how they regulate those things is looking more similar to what an older child would, as opposed to what they do the first few months. And to the exception of that, which I think is important, is, we do have premature infants that may not be as far along in their development and may not be there. And so those are definitely special circumstances, but the exception and not really the norm. And I would encourage people as we're having those conversations in the office that have, to ask those types of questions to us too. Occasionally medical things can arise. So reflux, I think, is probably less common than we thought it was as a problem, but it's still there. Sometimes there can be other medical issues as well that we need to address. But I think you're spot on in terms of really separating out like the external things that they're using. So I think I think I told you that with this new format, we don't generally get questions, but guess what? We did. Surprise. So do you mind if it's a really long one. So yeah. I don't know can you see it, or I don't know if you.
Yes, I can see it. Let me just read it. Yeah.
So I'll read it while you're reading it. So
okay.
As our son is 18, almost 19 months, he's doing a lot of moaning, talking in his sleep, sometimes screaming. How do I know when I should go in to soothe him versus letting him learn to self-soothe? He's also sleeping more than before COVID-19 stay-at-home orders. I'm not sure if that's related or not.
Okay. So 18, 19-month-olds, this could be, it is normal for you to hear babies or toddlers making noises in their sleep when they're jumping from one sleep cycle to the next. And if they are, if they do this for a couple minutes, I usually say under 5 minutes. If you hear, crying, sometimes they're half asleep when they're doing it. It's just, going from one stage of the sleep cycle to the next. So it could be that if you left your son, let him see what happens within 5 minutes. And if he's still upset, then you would respond, how you're comfortable with responding. And it's either what you've been doing or just waiting it out and seeing if he's able to get himself back to sleep. I think that's the key, is he making these noises and going back to sleep because that's something that's just kind of developmental and he'll grow out of, or is there something more going on here? I think I would need to know a little bit more information on that. But for the most part, I would say, let it go a couple of minutes. And if he's not, really calling out and really needing you, then just see what happens.
Yeah, I do find in practice, and you tell me the same, I think the instinct is to jump in quick and not really give them a chance. Sometimes even if they do partially arouse, to self-soothe back down. And even in cases I've had where I don't think families don't realize they're the ones waking up the child because the child's not fully aroused. So I think it's important. So definitely give them a chance.
Yes.
And I guess the other thing for me is how much soothing, how much intervention, because this comes up a lot. How far do you take what you do?
Right. Yeah, it depends on the age. So for newborns, and by newborns, I mean 0 to 3 month olds, will need more soothing and more support. So if you have a newborn that's, crying and needs to be picked up, then, soothe them until they're calm, until, you're able to calm them down, and then you can lay them back down again. But when you have an older baby, it kind of depends on the situation as far as how much soothing. Some people like to do more of, going into the room, checking on them, patting them, offering some, soothing words or sing a song, and then leave the room. Other parents feel better staying in the room as their baby falls asleep or picking up their baby or their child. It just kind of depends on how much you can tolerate. But like you said, I do always recommend waiting at least a couple of minutes before, going and responding to your child. This way, they could be in that partial arousal. Or another reason is that, if you go in too soon, they're going to learn that every time I make a peep, then mom or dad's going to come in the room, and that's going to motivate them to be waking up more frequently to kind of get that attention in the middle of the night. And they need to be sleeping in the middle of the night, so do you. So I always recommend waiting a couple minutes as well. But yeah, as far as the soothing methods, there's so many different methods out there, and I use different methods, but I need a lot more information before I can say, okay, do this. So yeah, it's a lot of it is the parent comfort. Are you comfortable with letting your baby go and figure it out a little bit longer, or going and responding sooner?
Sure. I'm going to take, because the second part of the question I think is interesting, and I talked a little bit about the increased stresses on kids. And so one of the regressions we're certainly seeing is sleep, and wanting the parent close to them. Some are even to the point of they're having separation anxiety. But I think it's a good question. I mean, kids are under stress right now. Do you let them co-sleep? Do you not? How do you manage that?
Yeah. So once you bring a baby into your bed and co-sleep with them, it's really hard to break that habit. And, doing it for a night, even one night, can make it hard the next night when you don't want to do that. But if you do decide to co-sleep, and if you're comfortable with it, some parents do it and they're fine with it and the whole family's happy. But if you think it's a temporary situation, if you're not planning on doing that long term, then I wouldn't start that new habit. Some suggestions for, what's going on right now where, children want more of their parents and they're having more anxiety around COVID-19. A suggestion I would have for parents is to spend about 15 to 20 minutes a day, one-on-one with your child, and each parent can do this. And it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but if you think about the day and how many distractions are, or, parents are working from home, taking that 15 to 20 minutes during the day, one-on-one time, no technology, no other distractions, very, good quality time sitting and playing Legos or just talking to them, going on a little walk. Having that one-on-one time will help at bedtime as far as, they feel like they've gotten their attention cup a little bit filled and they have that, good connection with you during the day. So making sure that's happening every day. And the other thing that is really helpful is, I know that routines have been on the slide a little bit recently, but keeping up with that bedtime routine is so important, especially right now, because children and babies thrive on having structure and routine to their day. So if the day is not how they're used to having it currently, having that bedtime routine set every single day and making it the same every night, very step by step, having that relaxing, predictable routine is going to be really helpful as well. So as far as, how long should the routine be? It should take about 20 to 30 minutes. If you have a younger baby that's feeding during the routine, it's probably going to take 45 minutes, but I wouldn't think it would drag on more than that. But 20 to 30 minutes, very step by step, so that your child knows the expectations around sleep. There's no surprises, and there's also not room for extra requests, an extra 10 kisses, an extra cup of water. So you're, because as you know, toddlers and children can definitely take that extra little, slide one day and run with it.
They're great negotiators. They'll
yes.
renegotiate the contract if you open the door.
Yes.
And I have to say few, because I talked about a little of this stuff before, and I think all our answers lined up well. It was a test
good.
From last week.
All right.
And I think you brought ringers or something in here. Like, you're literally getting praise now in the chat line.
Oh.
So, we know she's great. That's why we had her as a guest.
Rosalie.
Oh, too funny. Yeah, no, it's been a difficult time. And I've been stressing the schedule thing. I think not just for this, for everything. And
Yeah.
the other piece I think is really important with that anxiety piece, which goes a little bit beyond sleep, is having something that the kids can count on and look forward to.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to be creative with that because we really don't know when they're going back to school. I don't know when the pool's opening. There's all these things. Camps just got canceled. I'm sorry, parents out there. So it's finding something that kids have to look forward to, but also that they can rely on schedule-wise is super, super important, not just for sleep, but for just behavior in general.
Yeah. And I'm going to add on to that. Another suggestion is offering, and parents have probably heard this before, but offering choices throughout the day to build, and at bedtime, to build confidence in the child. You know, I'm able to make decisions and they matter, and it just, builds up their confidence. So around bedtime, some choices that you can offer your child would be, you know, out of these 2 pajamas, do you want the ones with the stripes or do you want the ones with the hearts? Or, you know, out of these 4 books, which 2 books would you like to read? So offering, you know, those choices throughout the day and around bedtime can also help, you know, make children feel a little bit safer and more in control.
Yeah, that's perfect. I 100% agree. 100% agree. All right, so we have another question here I wanted to bring up. So oftentimes we're getting asked questions certainly about kids waking middle of the night. They're still waking up at night. Sorry. That was the wrong one. Sorry, the toddler. Sorry, guys. So toddlers waking up early in the morning. So I get this a lot where parents have done all kinds of things to try to stop this because they want to sleep to 7:30, and their kids waking up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and they move the bedtime, and that doesn't work. And they try other things to do that. What do you recommend for these families?
All right. Yes, this is a very hot topic as well. Early morning wake-ups, especially right now, when you have the long day, when you're at home with your children all day and they're waking up at 5, that's a long, long day. And so what is an early morning wake-up? Babies and children, most babies and children are biologically wired to wake up anywhere between 6 to 7:30. So that means that anything before 6 o'clock is too early. And that should be considered a middle of the night wake up. So treat that as a middle of the night wake up until you get to at least 6 o'clock. So, you know, some advice I would have for these parents, the first thing would be to pick a time, early, minimum wake up time, and stick to it. So if 6 o'clock is your minimum wake up time, then make sure that you're waiting until that time, until your child comes out of the room. I've had families that I've worked with, you know, their toddler woke up at 5:52 and they said, oh, it's so close to 6 o'clock. I just got him out of the room. And then what happened is the next night they woke up at 5:45. Oh, that's pretty close to 6. They got him out. And then it keeps getting backed up earlier and earlier. So that's why sticking to that minimum is so important, because then it could really start backing up earlier. Second tip would be, you know, just making sure that your toddler has those independent sleep skills at bedtime, because between the hours of 4 to 6 a.m., children are cycling in and out of lighter stages of sleep more frequently. They're in their REM sleep more frequently during those hours. And what happens is about 3 hours before their wake up time, their natural occurring wake up time, the body starts to secrete a stimulant hormone called cortisol. And you can think of cortisol as, Mother Nature's caffeine. And by that time, melatonin production has ceased. So you have a lot working against you in those early morning hours. So if your child knows how to fall asleep independently at bedtime, and this can be, even earlier than toddler age or older children age, then they'll have those skills and be able to use those skills when they are waking up more frequently and in those lighter stages of sleep in those early morning hours. Third thing you want to check, and this is a simple solution, is environment. So is the room dark enough? And, I get lots of parents that say, yeah, we have blackout curtains, but I mean, dark, like if you went in the room in the middle of the day and you looked at the back of your hand, would it be hard to see it because it was so dark? If that's the case, then it would be dark enough. So having, blackout blinds or, black trash bags or foil against the window so that any little ray of light that peeks through, could be peeking in their crib or their bed, could stimulate the wake up. So blackout blinds, keeping it dark. The second thing would be environmental noise. So little noises could, wake your child up if a parent's getting ready for work in the morning in the house because no one's going anywhere, or, some people are, but, birds chirping, the garbage truck coming in early. So any of those environmental noises could also stimulate the wake up in those lighter stages of sleep. So I recommend getting some type of white noise machine. You can, find cheap ones on Amazon, but you want to find one that doesn't have a timer because it'll, go off and then it's going to lose its purpose. So something that you manually turn on and off, having that white noise. The last thing, and this is one of the more common problems with the early morning wake-ups for toddlers, would be, how are you responding when they wake up? So it's 5 a.m. and it's too early for yourself to wake up as adults. So you just give them the iPad or, put them in front of the TV until you wake up. If they are getting this instant gratification, right when I wake up, I get the iPad, or right when I wake up, I get to watch TV, that is not going to motivate them to sleep in later. They are going to continue to wake up early for that special treat. So putting some type of buffer of time in between, giving them the iPad and sticking to that minimum is helpful. And then as far as, younger babies waking up too early, if they are getting nursed immediately after they wake up, and obviously feed your baby, when they're hungry in the mornings, but having a buffer of time again, it could be a diaper change, or if they're old enough for solids, just some type of buffer of time where they're not just getting that the second they wake up, to motivate them to, wake up earlier and more frequently. And one other thing, I wanted to add with toddlers, something that's really, really helpful is getting some type of toddler clock, so that they know, when they wake up in the early morning hours, it has, there's different types that has a sun pop up, or you can get a digital clock and cover up the minutes, but something that tells them that it's, that it's okay to wake up. It's time to come out of your room.
Great. No, those are fabulous. I mean, I can't do better. That's why you're the expert. Do you want to get to one more? Because I get this one a lot too. And this gets to the negotiation part of things.
Sure.
The bedtime stalling happens all the time with the older kids. They refuse to go to bed. They can be oppositional about it. How do you manage that? What do you recommend to families?
Right. Yeah, this is another common one for toddlers and young children. Bedtime stalling. If it is, having trouble with the transitions, then giving some warning. If you're about to start bedtime routine, they're about to get in the bath. So you have 5 minutes left to play with Legos, and then we're going to get in the bath. And then give them a 2-minute warning, a 1-minute warning. So they have those, they know the transition is coming. So preparing them ahead of time for that transition. And then when it comes to bedtime, if they're having trouble with the transitions once again, coming out of the bathtub, I have those little sand timers that, there's different colors. You can get them on Amazon for like $6, but they have 10 minutes, 5 minutes, little timers. So you can have those timers up, that, you can blame up, the timer's up, so it's time to get out of the bathtub. So if you're having trouble with those transitions at bedtime, those can be helpful. If it's the extra requests, if it's dragging on more than 30 minutes, then I recommend, just going to the computer and typing up a bedtime routine chart. It can be very simple. So the first step is bath. The second step is PJs. Step 3, brush your teeth. Step 4, read a book or two. Step 5, kiss goodnight. And then having a picture next to each step, because toddlers are very visual learners, and obviously they can't read yet, or most of them. They'll see the picture, and if they start asking for those extra requests, you just refer to the bedtime chart, and they'll see it hanging there and be reminded that, these are the steps, and they're the same every night. And so they know the parents' expectations around sleep. And you really have to, make sure that they understand your boundaries and your expectations around sleep. So having that chart can be helpful.
Do you use external rewards? Do you reward them, stickers or small things like that?
Yeah, you can do. Yeah, I would recommend rewards. They're not going to go on forever, but in the beginning, as they're getting used to this, for toddlers, have a sticker chart. Or, let's say they waited until their toddler clock went off, or the sun came up on their clock, and I would, give them a little reward from the dollar store in the morning if they laid in bed quietly until that time. So yeah, I would offer rewards for the first maybe 2 weeks until they start getting the routine and their body starts getting used to staying in their room, or sleeping in a little bit, or going to bed for the bedtime routine chart.
It's awesome. Yeah, no, I think it sometimes takes you a little sticker. It seems like such a simple thing,
Yes.
but and a lot of it's even the verbal praise of making it, wow,
Yeah.
look what you did. That was amazing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. And making everything, positive. So if they didn't
Right.
do well with it one night, it just, okay, we have tomorrow night, we can try again. So keeping it positive for them.
Yeah, totally. I love that. All right, final thing, your top 3 tips for newborns. And so I'm finding more and more I'm having those conversations about sleep a lot earlier. Mm-hmm. So help me out, help us out. Okay. What are your top 3 for the newborn, the first few months of setting them up for success down the road for sleep?
Yeah. So newborns, they do sleep a lot during the day, and but the sleep is fragmented. They have an immature circadian rhythm, and it doesn't develop until 2 to 4 months. So that's why you get the unpredictable schedule, the short naps. They have their days and their nights mixed up. So it is tough. I think the toughest part is just not to have a predictable schedule, or to know, is it going to be a 10-minute nap, or are they going to be sleeping for 3 hours? So the first goal for newborns, I'll give you three goals to work on with your newborn. The first one is to let your baby find ways to fall asleep on their own some of the time. So instead of, I highly encourage you to hold your baby to sleep many, many times, and to, be close with your baby while they sleep. But every once in a while, put them down in their crib or their bassinet and give them the opportunity to drift off to sleep on their own. So you could either, hold them until they're drowsy, put them down drowsy, or if you're feeling really ambitious, put them down when they're awake and see if they're able to get to sleep on their own. If they start fussing a little bit, let them go, give them the opportunity. But if they're, full on crying and you're not comfortable, then by all means, pick them up, offer them comfort. If it's been too much for the day, try again another day or a different nap. But if not, put them down when they're calm and try again. So the first tip I have is to let babies fall asleep on their own at least some of the time. The second one is to follow an eat, play, sleep schedule or pattern of activity throughout the day. So feeding when your baby is waking up from naps as opposed to right before the nap. 2 reasons for this. The first one, when you're feeding when they wake up, you're more likely to get a fuller feed. They're more awake during the feed. They're not.
We lost your sound. Yeah, can you hear me? Let me see if I can get you back. I'm sorry, everyone. We're suffering technical difficulties here. Yeah, we've lost your sound. Let me do this. Here's what I'm going to do. Kendra, if you want to log out and then try to connect back in, I think might work. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I can't. We can't hear you. If you can log out and then log back in, and we'll try to finish those thoughts. And we'll try it that way. Sorry about that, everyone. I think something maybe on the bandwidth on her end, or our end as well. So I think those are really important. I think I give this very similar advice. And it's sleep is, I think people tend to often think of it as a boot camp. But it's you want to be in it. You're in it for the long haul, and really it's a stepwise process, and it's an ongoing process of learning different stages and steps that go into it. So not to think of that you have to conquer everything in a weekend, or that but it starts as early as the first few weeks of life and doing things. And I think that's really, really important, that it's a process that goes on. It's not something that you conquer. Hey, Kendra, are you able to hear? Yeah. Yeah, we have you back. Sorry.
Sorry about that. My headphones just turned off, apparently.
Sorry.
So what was the last thing you heard?
You were on the second step, on the second part.
Step 2, eat, play, sleep pattern. 2 reasons. The first one, following the eat, play, sleep pattern. First reason is to allow your baby to get full feeds. So when they're feeding, when they're more awake and refreshed after their nap, you're going to get a full feed, and that's what you want. when they're feeding close, too close to their nap time, they're going to be sleepy when they're eating, and you're not going to get as good of a quality of a feed. The other reason for the eat, play, sleep, and feeding after they wake up is to not create a feed to sleep association, because that can give you problems down the road. If they only know how to get to sleep by being fed, then they're going to wake up a lot. Their sleep is going to be more fragmented. They're not going to learn how to sleep on their own. So following that pattern is helpful. It's also helpful to help with the confusion of days and nights. Thinking of 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night for a newborn. So if your newborn is going to bed at 9:30 p.m., they tend to go to bed later. Some of them do. Their morning would be considered 9:30 a.m. So kind of thinking in terms of 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. And then the third piece of advice for parents of newborns is to start a bedtime routine very early on. And I recommend starting the routine with a bath. It's a different activity than they're used to doing throughout the day. And I know that, very newborns aren't able to be submerged in water, but doing, the sponge bath, and you can even go through the motions when it's not a bath day and do a dry bath. So they have that routine. It's a cueing system to the body and the brain that sleep is coming, and the bath is kind of a warm up to sleep. So after the bath, you can give them a massage, put them in pajamas, a swaddle, and then you can even read a book with them. It's never too early to start reading to your baby, and then lay them down in their crib or their bassinet. So having that routine to differentiate day and night can also help with the confusion as well. So those are my top three.
Oh, that's great. And I just hit on parenting is not a race, it's a marathon. Yeah. And there's, you'll have periods where things are going well with sleep, you'll have regressions, you'll have things that happen, and it's a process, and it's every stage of development, there's things that you're often having to work on for a while until they really master it. So I think that's perfect.
And once you feel like you've mastered it, then it's another transition.
Yeah. Yeah. I think many of my parents have heard about my daughter as an example. She's definitely been my challenge, where I've opened many a textbook, and sleep was one of those areas. Yeah. I was like, I need new tools to retool sometimes.
So many it's just so complicated. You wouldn't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's also important for parents to hear. It's like, we're not like, I'm an expert. I mean, I'm a pediatrician. It's like, it doesn't go perfectly for us either. And so parenting is not a perfect art. It's really trial and error sometimes of finding what works for an individual child. But of course, including people like myself and you in that process can be helpful for people. So on that note, I did want to mention everyone, you are available for consultation. So I put your website up there as well. From what I understood from your website, you'll do kind of a phone consult first to kind of get a sense of what they're dealing with at that moment. Yeah.
So I always start off with a free 15-minute phone consultation just to listen to what's been going on with your sleep struggles, and then, offer, tell you how I can help and if I'm available to help. Sometimes, I have screened it for, I refer them off to a pediatrician or a pediatric dentist for, medical, to check into something medical. So it's just kind of a pre-screening. And then from there, if you wanted to do a full-on consultation, which I offer, you would have either 2 or 3 weeks of my support, and I would get to know your baby or your child, learning about your schedule, their sleep habits, feeding habits, and then from there, I create customized sleep plans for your family, and we go over the plan in a consultation, and then I'm with you every step of the way as you implement the plan. I think the biggest part, where I'm most successful is the follow-up support. And that's, some people can read a book on sleep and then go home or start implementing those strategies and take champion sleep work. Other people need more support. And just, little questions that come up along the way that aren't answered in a book. That's what I provide. So we talk on the phone, we email back and forth during the time that you start your sleep plan.
Yeah, it's amazing. Nothing ever follows that textbook the way you want it to when you read those books. So definitely a place. And so I really appreciate everything you've done for our patients and
Thank you so much
taking the time today. For everyone out there, I will put up Kendra's information on the Facebook page. We will keep referring to you as well when we have really challenging cases. And when parents want the support. I mean, some of it's not even, it's just, you know, we hire consultants in all kinds of other areas of our life and profession. And it's like, nothing could be more important than sleep. So it certainly deserves attention and can understand people wanting additional help on that. So we'll put that information up. And thank you again for being with us today. And
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, Kendra. All right, guys, so we're going to close up. I do want to go over a few things with the practice, just so you're aware. And again, next week, I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about daycare because I know many of you are wanting to get your kids back into daycare. And I'm sorry to hear that many camps have been canceled. So I know a lot of families are dealing with that, including my own. So hang in there. I'm hoping there's some light at the end of this tunnel soon. I do want to review again. I keep getting seeing ads from LabCorp and Quest about testing. I want to make sure people understand there are two kinds of tests. One is not very useful from a practical point of view for your child, but is important for us to understand the demographics and understand how many people have actually been infected out there. And that's antibody or blood testing. So we are not doing that in the office at this point because it's not useful. There's 15 different ones that I'm aware of. Some are better than others. We're still trying to figure out what it means. So if you get a positive blood test, does that mean you're immune? Not necessarily. You may be able to be reinfected, and there definitely are case reports of that. Does it mean that you actually had coronavirus or COVID-19? And the answer is not necessarily. You may have had another coronavirus or something that cross-reacted to those tests. So you're going to be getting a lot of, and I'm seeing it myself, you're getting a lot of stuff about those tests and having it done at urgent cares and Quest and LabCorp even reaching out to you. Please, I would encourage you to talk to us if you have specific questions, but for the most part, I don't do the test because I don't want it to influence your behavior, because I don't think you can rely on that to give you the information you need about being re-exposed or going out and not following distancing and those things. The test that we are using limited in the office, I'm hoping to get more. I'm going to find out when I go in this afternoon if we've gotten more, is what we call PCR. That'll tell you if the virus is in the secretions that we swab. So those are the swabs you see people getting in the nose. That tends to be the best. I'm hoping we actually can move to a nasal swab. So a lot of the data shows that the nasal swabs carry as much virus as when we do a deep swab, but right now we're still doing a deep swab. But that's the test you want if you think your child has been infected or you've been infected and you want to know the answer to that question. That's the test. I'll remind you with our practice at this moment, we're not doing walk-ins, and that's largely so that we can keep things safe. We do ask that you call for an appointment, but we are absolutely doing same-day appointments. For those who have symptoms that may overlap with COVID, we are doing those visits outside. And for those well checks and non-COVID related injuries, things like that are clearly not COVID related, we are seeing you in the office. And of course, we're wearing face masks as well as wearing gloves during those visits. We continue to offer telehealth visits for any sick or problem visits. Particularly for my patients who have ADHD or depression or anxiety, it's a great way to not have to come in and expose yourself potentially, but we can certainly do most things by telehealth that way. Telehealth well visits we are offering. I would actually discourage it. We're keeping the office so safe these days. I think you're not going to get out of the well visit what you need to on the telehealth, but if it's an absolute no and getting you into the office for those routine checkups, we will do that as an alternative. And then we pair it with what we call shots in the lot, where you get vaccines outside. So you very quickly, you drive up, we come down, we give the vaccines, and you're on your way with very little risk. So on that note, I want to remind everyone there's no such thing as a perfect parent. There's only you just being a real one. So don't, with sleep in particular, I don't want you to ever feel that you're going to do everything right. You're not. I haven't done everything right. You just do the best you can, and you do, and that's being real with it. So from all of us at Einstein Pediatrics, we want you to stay safe, be well, and we'll see you next week. All right, everyone, take care.